Hey, I'm going to show you a good way to stretch your hamstrings now. And I'm trying to get a little bit of an angle so that you can see what I'm working on here in my hip and in my hamstrings. So I'm taking a really nice thick band and putting it around my foot. And I'm just going to hold on to it with my outside hand. And this way I'm not causing a whole lot of tension in that upper body. And so this alone is going to be quite a bit of an exercise for many people, is just straightening the leg. And don't worry if you can only get your knee about this straight, that is totally fine. But what I do want you to do is make sure that your tailbone or your sacral bone stays anchored on the mat. So in other words, you don't want to be tipping back this way in order to get this leg up in the air so that you could slide a hand underneath there. So keep that glute anchored down. And we're just going to go into a little bend and stretch. Okay, then there's a few more things that we can do with this. First of all, we can pay attention to what's going on across the toes. I hope you can see this angle in the video here, that my big toe and my pinky toe ideally are going to be on the same level versus, can you see this, how my pinky toe is higher than my big toe? A lot of people have that, so it's kind of a lengthening on this side of the leg. So my racing stripe side is longer and my inside is shorter when this happens. So we want to try to balance that out and bring the pinky toe and the big toe to the same level, as if I could put a block right across there, or even set like a water glass across there and it wouldn't go sliding off. Okay, so we've got that. The other thing that you can do is bring this band here more at the toe level, and as the leg straightens, you're going to push your heel up and then you're going to pull your toes down to you. So not only do you get the hamstring stretch, but once we start to add that flexion, dorsiflexion is what that's called, of your foot, then we get a glute and calf stretch. So you can even use your band to get a little bit more of that. Ooh. And a little bit of downward pull drops this thigh bone, called your femur, down into the socket a little bit more. I tell my class it's like dropping a little peg into a hole. So when we do that, we're creating a little bit more space back there in the back of the hip joint. And it's like the C's part. So it feels really good. So just gentle dropping down, dropping that thigh in its socket and flexing the toes. Okay, so first element is just bringing that leg straight up, trying to keep your hip down and your foot level. Second is adding a little bit of flexion, so pulling the toes back to you, dorsiflexion. And then the third element that you can do with this is keeping the legs as straight as you can and as stacked up over the hip as you can. You can start to turn your knee inward and outward. So we call this internal rotation, which I don't have a whole lot of right now, and external rotation. And this is really good to help mobilize that femur in the joint, to stretch the inner thighs and the outer glutes. Awesome. And then of course you want to do the other side. So bring the opposite leg up. And you can do a few bend and straightens, flexing that foot if you can. Trying to get the toes on the same level, pushing the heel up in the air. Ooh. And then work on your external and internal rotation. There's a lot going on in here. It looks pretty subtle, looks pretty innocent, but there's a lot going on. I think everybody who sits at a desk should be doing this.